Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Alugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Tuesday, November 19th. Obviously, still awaiting what the heck will the Jaguars do. You've seen the Jets clean house, seen a couple other teams clean house, but the Jaguars, Shad Khan, apparently still just waiting, and no word from ownership, from the organization on whether or not they're going to keep on the coaching staff in place, front office. What are they doing? We don't know. And the lack of transparency, I think, is pretty frustrating. But to fill the void right now, we're going to take a look at what Justin Melo of the Draft Network has put together as a list of 3 potential options for the Jaguars' next head coach, right? There's just not a lot else to talk about right now. There really isn't. And it is the bye week, so we're going to get into some topics this week. You know, Brian Thomas Jr., Walker Little, how he's playing, some different things like that. But I think that right now everybody's focused on the future when it comes to the coach and front office. And so I want to take a look at what Justin Melo had to say. He's named 3 potential coaching candidates. I think all of them are interesting. All of them have their merit. So we're going to dive into that. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. So Justin Melo over on the Draft Network, we've got a link to this in the description below. But his first name here is Bill Belichick, former New England Patriots head coach. And Melo writes, Pro Football Talks Mike Florio linked Bill Belichick to the Jaguars during Sunday's Football Night in America segment. Florio went as far as to indicate that Belichick may even prefer to retain Trent Baalke as general manager. The two worked together in the late 90s with the New York Jets. Belichick is reportedly anxious to get back into coaching after spending the ongoing 2024 campaign working in various media roles. The greatest coach in the history of the game, Belichick will likely make sizable demands throughout the upcoming hiring cycle, both from his roster control and financial standpoints. Khan, one of the more aggressive owners around the league, is certainly braggadocious enough to meet his requests, as Murray is going wild in the background here. So Bill Belichick, we've talked about it a little bit. He has been linked to the job by multiple reports. Obviously, Melo cites Florio here. We've also heard from Diana Rossini about Belichick potentially eyeing the Jaguars job. And a lot of people talk about, oh, he's too old. I'm not really here to debate that. I think from a mental standpoint, he's still got it 100%. Like you see him breaking down football, hearing him talk about it. He does a fantastic job. And there's no better defensive coach, in my opinion, in the history of the game than Bill Belichick. So there's certainly some positives to look at here. I think Diana Rossini reported that Bill Belichick would be looking at the Jaguars job, but not really in terms of working with Trent Baalke, right? So I think that would certainly be the better option. If Bill Belichick had any interest in working with Trent Baalke, I've said it on here before, I would not want, like, that would be a sign to me that Bill Belichick is not fit for the job if he wants to work with Trent Baalke, right? So talking about Bill Belichick, aside from Trent Baalke, like just Bill Belichick on his own, defensively, culturally wise, I think he's going to get this team moving in the right direction. My question simply would be with Bill Belichick, what are we doing on offense? Because after Tom Brady left, his plans on the offensive side of the ball were quite frankly putrid. And yeah, they did a decent job with Mac Jones in year 1, of course, but it fell apart quickly. And I want somebody that's going to prioritize making sure that Trevor Lawrence, the franchise quarterback here in Jacksonville, extremely talented, hardworking young guy who has not been surrounded with enough support, I want him to be supported. So what would his plan be with the offensive coordinator? Would it just be one of his former assistants? Because I don't really think that's good enough necessarily. That would be my question mark about Bill Belichick. It wouldn't be about his ability to coach the defense, to get buy-in, any of those things. It would be about the offense. What are you doing on the offensive side of the ball? And then, the general manager, like who would be working with you from a personnel standpoint, like how much roster control do you have? These types of things would also be question marks, but it'd be interesting. And yeah, I could absolutely see Shad Khan wanting Bill Belichick to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. That would not shock me one bit. And I could see Bill wanting to be here. Patient owner, franchise quarterback, nice hanging out down here in Florida, new facility, not as much pressure as a lot of other places. Good amount of talent defensively. Some young pieces on both sides of the ball. I can see it. Justin Melo's next guy is Ben Johnson, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, another coach we've talked about a good bit here. But Melo writes, Belichick, notwithstanding the hottest name of the hiring cycle, will once again be Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. Johnson has been extremely choosy, declining previous opportunities to become a head coach. Additional interest will be expressed in his services despite his demands, and Khan will likely have him very high on the short list of candidates. Jacksonville's opinion of Johnson was likely strengthened on Sunday. His high-flying offense racked up 52 points via 7 consecutive scoring drives, 38 total first downs, and 645 yards of offense against an embarrassed Jaguars defense. The Lions are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and Johnson could finally be convinced to leave if Detroit hoists the Lombardi. Money isn't an issue for Khan. He'd consider writing a blank check to finally lure Johnson away from Detroit. Yeah, I think that this is the most popular candidate for a lot of folks, not only in Jacksonville, but pretty much any team that's looking for a head coach. It seems like the fan base is absolutely salivating over the thought of potentially landing a Ben Johnson, and for good reason. He's a great coach. He's a great offensive play caller. The way he gets players to share what they want to do, share, how they would like to have their offense run, take that input and marry it to what he wants to do and get the best out of all of the players on the field. I mean, it's incredible. And they're talented, no doubt about it. And their offensive line's really good. So, you do have some work to do here in Jacksonville to give Ben Johnson the tools he needs. But do I want somebody like Ben Johnson trying to create a playbook around Trevor Lawrence's strengths? Absolutely. Brian Thomas Jr.'s strengths? Yes. Sign me all the way up. So that makes a lot of sense. And the question with him would be, does he have the ability to, be a head coach? Because he's never had to do that before, especially at the NFL level. There's so much more responsibility involved with it than just being the offensive coordinator and play calling, right? So that would be the challenge for him. And then also making sure that he brought in a really high quality defensive coordinator. So Ben Johnson would be, he's number one on my list. The guy who would be number 2 on my list potentially as of this moment, and there's a long way to go, is the next coach that Justin Melo wrote about. And I've talked about him here on the channel. But before we get to that, and before we get to one final additional coach I wanted to talk about, in addition to what Justin Melo wrote, got to remind you all to check out Underdog Fantasy for pick 'em best ball and a whole lot more. You can use code Duval Daily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick 'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. This season, Underdog is running a special promo or bonus almost every single day. Like Profit Boost, you can pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There are tons of options around the league this week. Unfortunately, you will not be able to select an opposing running back to score against the Jaguars. But if you want to find a running back you feel comfortable with, Underdog has Vulture Protection to rescue your pick'em. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Duval Daily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. All right. This is an exciting one. This is a really exciting one. Not only because I think he's a heck of an offensive coach, but stealing from the Buffalo Bills, Joe Brady, offensive coordinator, once considered a rising candidate, writes Justin Melo. Joe Brady's professional coaching career hit a bump in the road when his tenure as the Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator did not go according to plan. Brady has since revived his reputation as the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, a role he was promoted to after initially being named quarterbacks coach. On Sunday, the Bills ended the Kansas City Chiefs' undefeated season, beating them 30-21. Offensive-minded coaches remain all the rage in today's NFL. Lawrence signed a $275 million extension in the offseason before putting forth this lackluster campaign. I would not say that Lawrence has been super lackluster, but I understand the point there. The Jaguars made a long-term commitment to Lawrence, Melo continues, and the next coach will be tasked with spearheading next season's comeback efforts. Brady has the resume to appease Khan's wish list. Yeah, I've loved Joe Brady since his days at LSU. I think that he got the short end of the stick in Carolina. I think he was pretty much the scapegoat there a couple years ago. Went to Buffalo, and since he became offensive coordinator in the middle of last season, this Bills offense has been lights out. It's like he just knows, and of course it helps when you have a Josh Allen, right? But he knows how to use each of the skill position players to the best of their ability, and I think also get the most out of the offensive line, similarly to a Ben Johnson. So I think Joe Brady would be a heck of a candidate. I really like that idea. I think that this list makes a lot of sense. You know, Belichick, Johnson, Brady. I would be much more in on Johnson and Brady unless you can tell me who exactly Bill Belichick is hiring to run the offense. Then we could really talk. But even then, I'd probably still be higher on Ben Johnson and Joe Brady. The challenge for both of Johnson and Brady would be, who are you hiring as a defensive coordinator, and what type of staff are you putting together, and how do you handle being able or having to be the head coach, be the mouthpiece of the organization. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it than just being an offensive coordinator. I do think being an offensive coordinator gets you a little ready for that. You're managing the entire side of the ball. You do have to meet with the media weekly, but all that stuff is ramped up when you become a head coach. So that would be the challenge for those two. And it would also be the challenge for the guy I wanted to add to this list. I think Justin Melo did a great job here breaking it down, but I wanted to talk about Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak is obviously the son of Gary Kubiak. His brother is still with the San Francisco 49ers, but Clint got his first opportunity to be an offensive coordinator this year in New Orleans, and I think that he's done some tremendous things over there in not the best of circumstances, right? Like Derek Carr in and out of the lineup has been injured. He hasn't played very well. You have an offensive line that's not great, right? A lot of injuries there as well. And then Chris Olave, he's had some injuries to deal with. They've dealt with a lot on the offensive side of the ball there, but he brings the Shanahan wide zone style rushing attack. I think that, you know, any coach who has survived and thrived working with Kyle Shanahan because of the mental grind that involves being a Kyle Shanahan assistant, like the mental acuity and sharpness that you have to have working for a Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, that coaching tree is intriguing to me. Clint Kubiak comes from that, and he has the pedigree, the bloodlines. I think he's done a very good job with the New Orleans Saints offense. I know it hasn't been perfect. There's been injuries. There's been different situations to deal with. Obviously, the firing of the head coach there. But overall, I think Clint Kubiak would be an interesting and appealing option if you weren't able to land a Ben Johnson, if maybe you're not as impressed by Joe Brady in the interview process, whatever it may be. I think Clint Kubiak should definitely be on the short list of options when it comes to offensive potential first-time head coaches. Clint Kubiak, he's been around the game his whole life, and I think that he's done a really good job there. And I like the way he speaks about the game, thinks about the game, and so that would be the one more name that I would like to add to the list here. And there's plenty more coaching candidates. There's a lot of good young coaches, whether it be offensively, defensively. You can even look in the college ranks and find some good coaches at times. Easier said than done, certainly, but that's just, again, we're kind of beginning this conversation, right? We've talked about it for a while, but it's still in the infancy stages. The Jaguars haven't even made the move yet, which feels inevitable. When will they make it? We don't know, but certainly feels inevitable that the Jaguars will be moving on from Doug Peterson and likely Trent Baalke as well. So just checking the Twitter machine to make sure that we have not received any breaking news about the Jaguars making a change, and I don't think we have. So, yeah, still waiting on whatever Shad Khan decides to do. I think he really needs to give some more transparency to the fans because this has been an abysmal season. So let me know what y'all think about this list in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.